and Fortress the Tower of London. My name is Yeoman Warder Lawrence. I'm one of 37 Yeoman Warders that live and work here inside the Tower of London with our families. This morning you're here to see the opening ceremony, and I'll tell you all about that. Now, in order for me to explain what the opening ceremony is, we probably need to understand what its opposite is, which is the closing ceremony. That's the reason we need an opening ceremony, because we had a closing ceremony. Now that ceremony takes place every evening. It's probably, arguably, the oldest and most colourful surviving ceremony of its kind, having been enacted every single night without fail for more than 700 years. And that occurred at exactly 7 minutes to 10 last night. Now the need for security here at the Tower of London probably goes without saying, but I'll give you a good few reasons as to why it's so important here. The Great White Tower right in the centre there, that was built on the orders of William the Conqueror, and that served as a royal palace, being the home of the monarch full-time right up until 1603, with King James I being the last monarch to resign here. The tower was also a citadel to command and defend the City of London in times of war. The Royal Mint, believe it or not, goes straight down Water Lane where we stood now, turn right just in front of those gates. That takes you onto Mint Street, and that's where all coins of the entire realm were both designed and produced here right up until the year 1810. This was also the site of the very first Royal Observatory, studying stars and planets, until that was ordered to Greenwich in 1675. This was an armoury for storage of warlike stores and provisions. This was even the Public Records Office, until that was moved away into the 19th century. It was also, believe it or not, a royal menagerie or zoo, and it was here where you came down the hill this morning. You may have noticed before the main entrance there are some wire animals. They're actually Barbary lions, which are actually extinct now, but those indicate some of the animals that were kept here as part of the royal menagerie, the exotic collection of wild animals. And they were held here right up until 1835, when they were ordered away by the Duke of Wellington. And those animals actually became the very first animals of London Zoo itself. Last but by no means least, this probably ranks as one of the most infamous prison complexes in the world. And over the years, many famous names have been incarcerated within these walls. Many of those famous names still lie within these walls to this day. I'm not sure how long you've got here today, but I'm sure you'll discover where some of those lie a little bit later on after the ceremony itself. Now the problem with that is that the surrounding populace, they were not always in sympathy with the activities inside the tower. And as enemies of the king or the state, they may attempt to rescue prisoners or even steal the crown jewels. So the need for security here was pretty great. The crown jewels themselves, they've actually been securely stored here in the tower since 1303. The only time they've been moved from here was during which period? Anybody? World War II, madam? Correct, yes. They were moved away from here and they were hidden beneath Windsor Castle. A bit of information only actually released to us a very short period of time ago. It was that secretive. So obviously the need was pretty secure. So what used to happen, every night at dusk, the gentleman porter, and the man we now refer to as the Chief Yeoman Warder, they would collect themselves an armed escort, and they would then march around the tower, securing all of the gates and doors that led here into the fortress, thereby making us safe against hostile attack or intrigue. Once that's done, the keys would have been handed over to the Tower Governor for safekeeping for the remainder of the night. Now there was a problem with that, in that dusk occurs at different timings every evening. And for those of you who may be familiar or may have experience with military personnel, you'll know of an evening time. There's nothing that we like more than to get out into the local communities, visit art galleries, do charity work and various other things. Why are you laughing, madam? That's exactly how we spend our evening. And sometimes we weren't getting back in time. So the Duke of Wellington, he orders the ceremony fixed to exactly 10 p.m. Now if you look down to your left, you'll see Yeoman Sergeant Jim Duncan. Last night he was responsible for making sure the fortress was secured under the armed escort you can see formed up behind me there. These are formed from serving soldiers who form part of the garrison here to protect the crown jewels at the Tower of London. These are members of the Guards Regiment. You see the escort consists of 4 individuals. There's a sergeant in charge, representative bugler and armed soldiers to keep the Queen's keys safe. So Yeoman Sergeant Jim Duncan now will join his escort. under that protection, he'll now make his way out to the inner gates. Once they hit those gates, the escort will stop. Sergeant Jim Duncan will move forward together with the watchman. So you'll see another gentleman just like me join the party, and they will open the inner gates. Once Sergeant Duncan moves forward to open those gates, you'll see that the soldiers will turn inwards. Stay right back behind that line, please, folks. Soldiers will then turn inwards and they will present arms with their weapons. That is them paying the highest compliments that they can pay to the fact that the Queen's keys are being used to secure those gates. And you'll see whenever the Queen's keys pass anybody in service, you'll see that we have to salute those keys. Once they open the inner gates, they'll then march out to the outer gates, open those as well. They'll turn about and they'll march all the way back down here, under the archway, and they will head off back to the garrison guard rooms, where they'll continue their duties of guarding Her Majesty's War Palace and Fortress, the Tower of London. You'll see from the white plumes that the soldiers are wearing in their bearskins, that represents that they are members of the Grenadier Guards. There are 5 regiments of guards within the British Army: Coldstream Guards, the Grenadier Guards, Scotch Guards, Irish Guards and Welsh Guards. They all wear those bearskins. Does anybody know why they wear those bearskins? They are a battle honour. They were not originally part of their uniform, but at the Battle of Waterloo, when Wellington's troops, in particular the Guards Regiment, smashed Napoleon Bonaparte's elite Republican troops, they discarded their headdress, and it was the French elite troops that wore those bearskins. When they abandoned the battlefield, they scattered them on the floor. Soldiers doing what they do normally, they were picking them up as war trophies to represent their victory on that day. So great was their victory, they were awarded them as a battle honour, and they now form part of the uniform of all 5 regiments of guards.